God, through his people, has met so many of my material needs this year, from affordable housing that I moved into at the beginning of the year to car repairs that I was blessed with by my small group. But I think that the most impactful thing for my journey over the past year has been having a community and people in my life who I can discuss spiritual things with, that I'm wrestling through, that I'm questioning, and just being permitted to work through those things and discuss them with others who've also maybe wrestled through the same topics. That has actually been very huge for me this year, to get to do that in a safe space, and I've learned a lot.
As I look back through my journal from 2025, I can see that God has been faithful through the adjustment of my mom moving from our house into Glacier Ridge, and the Grassroots community, particularly our home group, has been really helpful in supporting us through this change and adjustment. And also, I see God's faithfulness in helping me with difficult conversations at work, keeping in mind that conflict can be positive depending on how it's managed.
I'm grateful to God. I believe I was led by the Spirit to Grassroots. I was welcomed into this church community with such warmth and sincerity on my very first day. This has strengthened my faith and commitment to a Jesus-led life, and I am encouraged by the charity and love of this church family, our ladies' home group, and my new friends every day. Although my life is far from perfect, I see the positive impact and the sense of peace my faith has had, and I am grateful.
Hello from Kenora. I've been reflecting on God's faithfulness, and I looked through my journal for the year to do that. And even though there were many struggles this year and unanswered prayers, I realized that every time I showed up in prayer and in reflection, God showed up there to meet me and brought light to the moment, new insights, peace, and clarity when I needed it. So God is good and faithful even in the struggles. He's always there to meet us.
For years, I've wondered if I'm doing anything very meaningful for the Lord. After living in the Middle East and being a small part of the kingdom there. But I just read a book by another Christian worker who stayed on in Yemen and reports back about Yemenis who are following Jesus out of Islam. They face a long drawn-out civil war and famine. They suffer grief and persecution. But they are forging Jesus-shaped leadership and are learning to care for each other. That was so amazingly good to hear. It encouraged me. God showed that he's been at work all along, and he's only just getting started.
There's something sacred about long car rides, the steady hum of the road and the way shared stories draw a family close. On one of those drives, after finishing an audiobook, a simple question surfaced. How has God been faithful? As Arden and I looked back over the nearly 30 years together, we saw a clear thread running through our story. In detail, we recounted our story that pointed to his hand in our lives. He has walked with us, never once leaving us on our own. This past year brought big changes as I left my full-time job and began university. Yet, God has met us. I see his faithfulness in providing a full schedule of music students, and I am absolutely loving it. When life feels uncertain, I return to that moment in the car, remembering his faithfulness and letting it steady us for whatever comes next.
Hi, Grassrooters. Over the past year, I've experienced God's faithfulness in some really steady ways, and I think a lot of that has been through the friendships and connections I made at Grassroots Church. I have found that this community has helped me feel seen and supported, and I feel I can really be myself, including asking questions about faith that growing up, I never felt safe to ask. And I think that this has led me to be more intentional about my faith and feel more purpose and even excitement. So I guess I am just really grateful for all of you and for how God has met me through our church community in 2025.
I've been praying for quite a few years now that God would work on my university campus and on my soccer team. And about a year ago, I started feeling like God wanted me to be part of the answer to my own prayers. But I didn't feel like I was really gifted to be a leader or that there were many other Christians on campus. Anyways, fast forward to now, we've had 2 semesters, so this whole year of 2025, we've had Bible studies every week on Wednesdays and 4 worship nights where over 60 people have come out each time. And also on my soccer team, we've had huddles before the game and after the game to pray, and joined even by some Muslim teammates. And yeah, it's been great. We've also had Bible studies with my team every week, eating before and then just opening the Bible and making goals together. So it's been lots of answers to prayer.
When I think about God's faithfulness in 2025, I think about God as the parent and myself as a child. And I think not only about all of the ways he's met my personal needs, physical needs, but I also think about how no matter what, no matter how our relationship may be at odds due to my own distraction or even rebellion, he is always present in my life, whether it be in my community or through worship or through prayer or any number of ways I can find and connect with him. He's just waiting and ready.
This past year has been one of testing. Started out quite normally with the usual routines of coping with the daily needs of 90-year-olds, but soon became a more concentrated focus on the condition of my wife's health. Some of the past health issues were starting to raise their ugly heads and becoming more serious. By summer, trips to the hospital were more frequent. Nothing will make you more conscious of God's role in your life than when someone you love, who's been close to you for 68 years, is starting to exhibit life-threatening symptoms. Now, we have been Christians for pretty well all of our adult life, and so we've grown dependent on God's rescue in times of need. Though there have been lots of prayer for healing, the fact remained that we were not spring chickens anymore and have to face the fact it might be time for us to be going home to our heavenly destination. But then the real testing began. Ideally, for us Christians, we would like the Lord to come quickly in the night during our sleep, but often events do not progress the way we've expected them. And when obvious suffering is experienced, it's hard to trust that God is still present in the situation. However, He's taught me that His ways are much higher than mine, and my job is to just trust that He has a reason for doing things the way He does. Mercifully, He finally did take Shan home to be with Him in September. I was facing this Christmas without my loved one for the first time, and my daughter, in her wisdom, realized that it would be difficult. So she arranged for me to fly to Southern Ontario to spend Christmas with her family, and especially our 3 great-grandchildren. I was so blessed to experience the joy and excitement of these little munchkins that it was like starting Christmas all over again as a little child. God had indeed demonstrated His faithfulness in a time of great need.
Hi, my name is Amy, and this is my husband, Scott. I'm a teacher, and for the past several years, I've been working with an Indigenous organization to help adults to earn their high school diploma. So it was just a few days a week for much of that time, but last spring, they asked me to come on board full-time. So this September, when I reported back to work after the summer break, I learned that because of some changes with the organization that we had been partnering with, my job was gone. I was now quite suddenly completely unemployed. However, there was no feeling of panic, merely a whisper of the words course correction.
Yeah, we were surprised and we were sad that this had happened, but we were never worried or anxious about this sudden change. Partly this was because our privileged position, I still had my job, so we weren't about to be out on the street. But I also think that a big part of this was the peace that we have been learning to live in as we trust and follow Jesus. Reflecting on this experience now makes us excited to continue to be spiritually formed by aligning our priorities and values with Jesus's.
And my unemployment did not last very long. Within a few weeks, my supervisor had rearranged things to bring me back to work full-time. And this time, we didn't depend on a partner. or an organization to provide our funding for our programming. So we have opened our very own local campus, and I have my very own classroom with a lot of freedom and a lot of support. And in a way, my current work situation today is actually much, much better suited to me than it was last year.
So Amy and I both work in positions that are fulfilling and let us do kingdom work. And we're thankful for this, but we also know these jobs could end at any point. And we're fine with that because we put our faith in God and not in these jobs. So, thank you everyone. Happy New Year. Bye, Grassroots.